Welcome to the SwimSwam podcast. I'm your host, Coleman Hodges. Joining me today, we've got a very special guest. He is a member of the USA swimming national team. He just came out of the breaststroking scene and on the national scale in the last couple of years, but he's certainly made waves and made a name for himself in these last 18 months. We've got Brandon Fischer today. Brandon, how's it going?
It's going well. Just been really busy with working my full-time job and trying to make do with the current circumstances we're under. And yeah, can't complain.
I talked to Andrew Wilson the other day. Also, kind of an interesting story. Got a lot better with age, and then you've got an interesting story as well, and we've reported on it, but I've never gotten to sit down in a setting like this and talk to you about it. So I'm excited to hear your swimming journey. But let's start with kind of the present. Like you said, you're working a full-time job. And you're also trying to balance training in a time when getting pool space can be difficult. How have just these last couple months been for you?
Well, I have to say it has been challenging to say the least. That's an understatement. I swim at a private pool where I have an agreement with the owner, and I have to just fight for pool lane space because I'm not the only one who uses it. I mean, you got people from outside. I mean, it's a six lane, 25-yard pool. It's not. I don't train in like a 50-meter pool at all. I don't have access to one, and I just kind of do stuff in my garage. Like I have these gymnastics rings. I've been doing all these crazy. I think I'm almost afraid I'm going to blow my shoulders out. But through baby steps, you just kind of take those little progressive steps to go in the right direction, because if you make these big leaps and bounds too soon, you do end up hurting yourself. So the biggest thing for me is listening to my body a little bit more, which has always been the most difficult thing, because I still have the mindset of like, let's just go and plow through it, but take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. And you were able to get down to Irvine and compete in the US Open site there. I guess it's now a week or two ago. And you threw up 101.8, 213 in the 200. What did you think of those performances, and what was it like swimming long course in the first time in maybe a year?
Yeah, it's been a year pretty much. I will say that it's respectable, but it's not where I want to be right now. And I think that is very common across the board. So I'm not the only one who's saying that. It was really good in the sense that I had not trained long course or touched long course because I was at the Olympic Training Center in March when this whole thing went down. And we just kind of had to book it back to town. And my employer, which they were really concerned of saying, we need to get you back here ASAP, because we don't want to put the risk of our employees at the helm of this thing that's kind of ravaging the planet right now. And we want to preserve the intellectual property and the health and safety of our employees. So I have to answer to higher up authorities at the lab, but also I have to be conscious and aware of my surroundings with everybody else that is close to me, because I don't want to put them at risk either.
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, what was it like? What was it like just getting to race again in an environment, like the US Open? Obviously it's not like normal US Opens, but still a big swim meet.
It was really weird because it just wasn't normal, like you said, like any other meet or US Open. I was, and in the end, I was grateful that I was able to say, okay, I know where I'm at, I know where I need to go now. We got a data point. It's like just a data point, and where can we get more data and more of this spreadsheet of figuring out where am I going, where do we need to go, what do we need to fix. It was strange. But it's I like this I try to carry this kind of philosophy with me where, I mean, I remember watching I don't know if you've seen the movie The Martian with Matt Damon.
Yeah.
So if anyone's seen that movie, at the end he talks about he said talks about a couple things about the questions he's asked at the end of the movie. And the author who actually wrote the book and then they made a movie out of it, he actually worked at Lawrence Livermore Labs. So that's a trivia. So he Mark Watney, that's portrayed by Matt Damon, says, "Was I going to die? Yes, I was afraid I was going to die." And that's what you have to know going in. And I'm not saying that we're going to, like, this is kind of an extreme case of saying this, but everything is going to go south on you at some point in your life. And I like talking about adversity because that's the other side of the coin that nobody really talks about. Everything's going to go south on you at some point in your life. And you're just going to you can just sit there and be like, what am I going to do? Play the victim game, or start pointing fingers everywhere and saying why you're not where you want to be. Or you get to work. You solve one problem, you get to the next one. You solve another one, you get to the next one. You solve another problem. You solve enough problems, and you eventually end up where you want to be. They take longer than others, but it's this life.
And I think, I think adversity can be a big topic for today. We can get into that in a myriad of ways. First off, let's talk about quarantine, right? You were training at the Olympic Training Center in March when the COVID shutdown kind of hit the United States. You book it back to Livermore. And then I'm guessing pools were closed in the Bay for quite a while. Tell me about those 6 months, March to October. How were you trying to continue your training to stay in shape inside the pool, outside the pool? I mean, while again working your full-time job, how'd you make it work during that period?
Well, I had to say, all right, I got to take ownership and this isn't the first time that I've had to have something stand in my way, but it's going to be frustrating. But I got to just got to go for it. You got to take responsibility and ownership. No one's going to save you. You just go into that dark room and say, what do I want to do with my life? And so I had my neighbor across the street. He has a backyard, one of those makeshift, like just, backyard pools. I mean, I was having someone hold me and tether me with a rope, like a bungee cord, and I was swimming in the backyard, and I was doing med balls, and doing stuff in the water, and it would take me like 3 strokes to get to the other side. But it was just kind of a nice, just to have touch with it. It'd be an hour, and then I'd go in the garage and I would gather whatever I could and in resources, and just made my garage into like a dungeon, and just have done some crazy stuff with body weight and experimenting and exploring how I can use gravity as a force against my body. When I look at gymnasts, I mean, they're crazy, but man, they are very, very fit, very cut, and they kind of work the body in a different way. And I found out that body position is a huge thing in the water, and it's using gravity as a force to help with your body position actually translates and helped with me with my streamline and body position, staying on top of the water. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise. And then the hills around here are very, very hilly. It's a very the golden hills of Livermore, as they say. But I was running in the hills and sprinting up hills, which God forbid, I'm not a land dweller, and riding a bike and doing pretty much the confines of everything was done inside my house.
Mm-hmm. And so seems like you, through all these different forums, you were able to build strength, build body awareness, and get strong legs. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm hearing.
Pretty much. I mean, if I'm missing something, I haven't found it yet, but I mean, that's the paradox and mystery of life.
So you got really creative, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you've certainly had experience training by yourself in the past. Was this different? Or did that training by yourself in the past kind of lend itself to you being able to say, all right, this is another hurdle and I have to do this on my own, but I've done this before and I'll do it again.
Yeah, you are right. This isn't my first rodeo training by myself. I've trained by myself for many, many years, and it's I didn't have the luxury of being able to train um, with other people that kind of luxury. So I mean, some people have it, some people don't, and that's just life. And but I'll take you back, way back in time, in the early stages of my life. So Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory did have, and this was back, we're talking back in the 90s. Okay, so we're going back, and they used to have a pool out there, believe it or not. And the Lawrence Livermore Lab was built back in the early 50s by founders of Dr. Lawrence and Dr. Ed Teller. These were physicists, founders of the laboratory.
Mm.
And it was founded upon a naval base that would train pilots. And there was nothing out here. It was just farmland out here. It was a naval base that was meant to train pilots to learn how to get out of their aircraft in World War II. And they would learn how to fly on on aircraft carriers. But that was 70 plus years ago now. We're talking 80, yeah, a long time ago. So, but there used to be a pool out there, and it used to be open to the public. And I would swim out there by myself a lot. And it was a diving well, like a big diving, 50-meter diving tank. And it wasn't meant for doing laps. And when 9/11 happened, which I was there, it was pretty freaky, surreal moment. I I was still training in the morning with my coach, and it would just be me and her. It was raining, there was ice on deck, and I was just by myself with my coach and me. So this was back when I was 11 and 10, and I was just beginning year round. And I had already done swimming beforehand, but it was just like need like 3 months swim lessons, learning how to make sure I don't drown. So this isn't the first time I've had to walk a path alone. Sometimes the most defining paths of an individual are those that they have to walk alone. So, swim
So,
alone.
walk or swim alone. And how old were you when you were doing these laps in this big 50-meter dive well?
I was like 10, I was 11 years old, 12 years old. So
Okay.
the laboratory, they still had the pool up until like 2004, 2005, and then they buried it and stuff. I was actually there walking on site yesterday because I can do that. I kind of stood there and just, it was kind of one of those moments you see your younger self running across the pool deck that used to be there. You start to see the landscape. It was kind of very surreal. And I stopped there for like 10 minutes and just stared out at this pool that doesn't exist anymore, but I knew it existed because I'd been there
Yeah,
so many times. And yeah, it's just thought provoking and memories.
definitely. And so was that I mean, that sounds like your first, kind of real swimming, real training by yourself. Did you eventually go on to join a club team, or, where did your swimming go from there?
So there used to be a club team, and this is when I did start year-round swimming, which was when I was 11 and a half, back in 2000, 1999. And it was SRVLA, which is over in San Ramon. They had a satellite group out here on Lab's property premises. And that's how that was where I was doing morning practices in the morning by myself with my coach, and and nobody wanted to come, but I came, and I was like, just doing my thing, and yeah, it was convenient too, because both my parents work there at the lab too as well, so it was very nice and convenient for them. And I went on to do a different club teams, and yeah, story goes on.
Well, I mean, you're swimming laps by yourself in a 50-meter pool. You're doing doubles by yourself, or going to morning practices by yourself. Why? What drew you to the pool? What? Because most kids aren't making that decision, right?
Yeah.
Why did you choose to do that?
Well, so this goes into a darker side of adversity. Again, we're going to be talking about another side of adversity. Up until this point, I had not a lot of friends. I wasn't nobody wanted to play team sports with me. I was kind of that kid that would sit by myself underneath the tree eating lunch by himself on a picnic table. I was that kid. Okay, I was that kid,
Mhm.
and I was bullied a lot. I had a learning disability. I'm a little more comfortable talking about it now because I didn't talk till I was 5. I was in special ed, but I knew I was smart, and I knew I was because I was very visual. I was really good at putting things together um, and being very creative. I just had a delay process of learning slower and just not being quick, and that doesn't classify somebody as mentally disabled. It's just they learn differently. I'm not very good with words, but dang, I'm very good at smart figuring out visually. Words don't mean anything to me. I'm a man of more about reading somebody through their actions. and and what's funny is I get the last word. They didn't think that I'd be an engineer or somebody who could work with their hands or good at math and science or any of this stuff. I'm working for an institution that works on the most cutting edge in R&D that you can ever imagine. The thing is, I can't really talk about it, but that's part of the contract of signing up for it. So, but
Yeah.
I love it. It's just sometimes the answers don't come later in life, and there's gonna be some people, places, things, events, and circumstances that are just gonna make your life completely difficult, and sometimes you just gotta you gotta again, it's back to that reference of Mark Watney about solving problems and also surrounding yourself with people that are going to help you get there because you can't do this by yourself. No way, right in right mind.
Yeah. So as a young kid, it sounds like the pool was a solace for you.
It was the solace for me. It was the solitude. It was my sanctuary. I didn't want anybody to talk to me or bug me. When I get in that pool, I'm a different character. When I step out, I'm a different character. When I'm in there, you just leave me alone. Just let me do my thing. I mean, it's learning how to balance and not be that person all the time, and then step out. Because when I go to the lab, I'm not the same person. I'm an engine. I'm a technician. I'm a mechanical technologist trying to do my work. And then when I'm done with that job, I don't bring it home. Well, right now, it is home. Um, I go to the pool. I am a swimmer. That's it. When I'm out of the pool, I'm just Brandon eating dinner. And then when I go to bed, I'm Brandon going to sleep. So transitions.
Yeah. And so when you were younger and when you were coming up on club teams even, did competing have an interest in you, or did you mostly just like that solace aspect of it?
I think a lot of it had to do with the solace, but I was always that person who wanted to be the best at everything that I do. I always want to do the very best at everything that I do. I always wanted to just want more. It's just my personality. I just am very ambitious. I'm I'm not in just in the swimming world, but also in my career job. I mean, I'm going back to school still right now, which is ridiculously hard. So I'm going to school and working full time and swimming full time. So there is no room for like flopping around
Activities.
activities. So, but I understand that it'll pay off in the end.
And so I know you went to the University of Wyoming, but when did swimming in college, was that a goal of yours that came to be at a certain point? Did you even think about that before you made that decision? How did that come about, in your high school years?
Well, I didn't I was when I was a sophomore, I wasn't thinking about college swimming as much. I wasn't exposed to it. Like now with most swimmers, it's interesting to see the progression of how the times changed. So when back then I wasn't thinking about college swimming, I was just thinking about how can I just be ridiculously fast at something that I love doing. Um, and so and I went about and then once I started going getting letters, I think it's when the letters started coming in, I was like, what the heck? Why does anybody want to pay attention to me? I'm just I just want to swim. And it's fun. I was so invested in swimming that it started happening so fast, and I didn't have time to really um, uh, kind of take the time to really um, be critical in deciding which place I wanted to go. At the time, with the information that I had at my in my lap, I should say, and making the best informed decision at the time is the decision I made. Would I have made a different decision? Absolutely. I mean, that's just the thing. I don't want to say hindsight 2020 because it's kind of ironic. But I just I didn't wasn't thinking about college, and I wasn't thinking about my future too much in that sense. I just it's just funny, as you get older, you start having a lot of reflection and self-awareness about what you're doing in the present moment, if you so choose to do it, and then see the decisions you made, reflect upon who you are now and where you're going. Yeah.
Before we get into your experience at Wyoming, did you run a club team? Did you swim for a high school team? Was that team aspect an important part of your swimming in high school?
Well, it was funny, like, yeah, because I did swim in a high school team, and I swam at Granada High in Livermore, and I was kind of like the top dog, and I wasn't really. It was funny. I didn't really care too much about. Do it, and it's just kind of that. Yeah, I was really successful at this point, but I was always looking to the next goal. I wasn't relishing in my successes too much. I wanted to get to the next goal, and like if I accomplished one goal, I'm like, yeah, good job, Brandon. Like, all right, what's the next thing? Like, that's just my personality, and it was really shaped a little bit about who I am, and yeah, so the high school was instrumental in a way in that high school swimming aspect, but it wasn't challenging enough. I felt like it was just kind of an easy breeze. I got a lot of more like competition and club swimming. So,
Mm-hmm. Do you have a meet that stood out to you, or favorite memory or two from your club swimming experience?
um, um, man, digging down memory lane here. Not, I think when I was early on, and like it's funny, I went from being an age group swimmer, like far westerns, which is kind of the thing here,
Mm-hmm.
right over here. I went from there to becoming a like senior nationals qualifying swimmer and Olympic trial qualifier in so quickly, like just overnight, like 1 year, bam. And it was just like, because I put in the work. I was going like 10 practices, 7K per 7,000 yards per practice. I was doing like just 10 practices a week. I was falling asleep in class. I'm surprised that I didn't get in trouble for it. So that was just how I just remember that part of that memory. So I'd have to go back and look at pictures and times, because that's a long way back. Wow.
Yeah. And so like you said, you would have made a different decision, or maybe not made the same decision, but you did end up swimming at the University of Wyoming. One interesting thing, you get your degree in art, and which now you're an engineer.
Yeah.
So tell me about your experience at Wyoming. Again, you're still growing as a high school and a college kid, but what was your experience like there?
Well, I will say it was kind of like putting like taking a cat and throwing it in water and seeing it freak out. Okay. So if I had to, if that's the best analogy I can give you.
That's quite the analogy.
Yeah. So I I went to Wyoming not knowing what I was doing. I won't get into too many personal details, but this was during a time when my parents, we were trying to financially figure out, and this is the other side, that it's really difficult right now, especially financially in the times we're living in.
Mhm.
College is expensive. I wanted to go to Cal. That was kind of like my go-to place, because my grandfather went there to become an engineer after the war. And I kind of, we do like spreadsheets. I'm very financially literate. Once I saw the numbers about how much it would cost. And I was getting a lot of scholarship from Wyoming. I was thinking about my long-term future of like, I don't want to be in debt for the rest of my life in student debt. And this is a very dark reality that a lot of people have to face. And especially it's probably even more prevalent right now where no one's working and everyone's out of a job, and the whole economy took a tank globally. And I'm very blessed to not have debt financially in that respect, but I didn't have a very good athletic experience. I'm much more comfortable talking about it. I blew my knee out. I had a dislocated kneecap, and I didn't uh, have the strength that I did now because I just it wasn't proactive, and probably this is where I like to talk and take topic of saying this: take control your own destiny, or else someone else will. And I learned that from somebody in Livermore who worked for a facility at Lawrence Livermore Lab. And he was long retired, but he said, take control of your own destiny, or someone else will. And there's plenty of people out there that will definitely use you to help them make their circumstance better at the expense of yours. So you got to portray yourself as somebody: I'm in control. I'm the captain of my ship. I am the master of my fate. And that takes a lot longer for people to figure out. And I learned that in Wyoming because it was very tough. It was negative 40-degree wind chill. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I actually did art because I really just enjoyed it and it was my strong suit, but I was told I wouldn't be good at math or science or engineering growing up because I had a learning disability. I wasn't placing in high enough in my grades and classes, and I wasn't. Everybody just doubted me a lot, and for a certain point in my life, I actually almost became what they said I would become. And I had a kind of this spiritual awakening, not like oh, but just this awakening of just stepping outside myself and looking in and saying, do I like what I see? If I don't, which I didn't, I said, oh, and I saw where I would be potentially going, and I didn't like it. So I made a lot of changes, and that's why I had to step away from swimming. And now I'm back.
Yeah. Um, when did this awakening occur for you?
Well, it happened, I think, in 2015. Like I took a couple years out after college not to do school, and I was living with my great aunt and uncle in Santa Clara and taking care of them while I was swimming over with Tony Batis. And they were ailing. One of them had dementia, Alzheimer's, and lots of health issues. And I was kind of, and one of them was taking care of the other, and I was kind of their saving grace of just when you living with somebody who has that kind of disease, it's really takes a toll on them, and to have someone to talk to about it and to be there as a support, it's huge. It's you can't put a price tag on it. And I saw it happen, and it was really crazy. And then my grandfather, who was in World War II, he was a Marine who went to Cal, became an engineer, and he did woodworking, and he was an engineer, and we would put things together. And he was a wonderful man, just a very huge inspiration. And I had some of his journals from when he was in war, and it was kind of very like, whoa. But he passed away, and I didn't, it was so like one of those things like, wow, one of those people that just leave your life. And it was really hard and took a toll on me. But I said, I got to get my life together. I'm not happy where I'm at. I'm 26 years old, not happy. I could not blame anybody anymore. Could not, I was unhappy about a lot of things, lots of things. And I won't go into that in depth, but I came back to Livermore and changed my direction, started from square one, and it paid off.
I mean, take me through it. What did square one look like? What did you change? And what was the direction moving forward?
I was swimming. I went to swim for Alex Silver, who is my present coach right now. and he's a very, very great man. I respect him a lot. He's a wonderful coach, and it's too bad that I didn't have him in high school, because I would had much more enjoyable time with him. I love the guy to death. Nah, and he and I, yeah. So, and I went to the Las Positas Community College to take some engineering and math courses, because I said I can do better for myself. And it felt I had to soak a hard pill, saying, because the fear, like that fear that talks to you is like, why are you going back to community college? You already have a bachelor's degree. You're too good for that. Why are you doing that? And it's like, I had to get over that. It's okay. And I stumbled upon this program which helps hire veterans coming out of the military, and they opened it up to the public. And so I enrolled, and it was the best, I wouldn't say mistake, but one of the best decisions I ever made, saying like, I got to get over my ego. And I got into the course. I got interviewed by the laboratory, and I wasn't swimming at this time. This was after 2016, after the Olympics, and I was like, I'm never come back to swim. I'm done. It's I got to get my life figured out, and I don't think I'll ever come back to swimming, ever. But what's funny, things started happening for me. I went and got an interview. I applied for an interview at the lab, because that was part of our gigs. We had to do an internship, part of our 2-year AS degree, on a fast track to help people get employed. And it's still there. It still does that today. I got accepted to get as an applicant to interview at the lab. I get into the lab, and this is before I was even working there. 2017. Yeah, it was 2017. It was raining. It was January timeframe. I get in this room, and like a bunch of guys, 5 guys come in who work at the laboratory. These guys are. I thought it was intimidating being on the stage of Olympic trials and being in the finals and stuff. No, this one knocked my socks off, because these guys were hardcore, like engineers, scientists, people that have been there for 30 years, dedicating their life and service to this country, and making sure, because they deal with lots of stuff at the laboratories, and Lawrence is just one of many laboratories. And I'm in my suit, and 4 guys, like 5 guys across from the table, and he goes, so what makes you worthy of working at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory? And I'm just like pinwheeling in my head, just like, just answer. And I said calmly, well, I think I'd be a wonderful asset and in the laboratory's mission, and help furthering the country in science and research and development and national security. And they said, and then we had to know the mission. If we didn't know what the mission of the laboratory is, it's like, okay, well, you obviously don't belong here. And they asked me more questions, and then I got accepted. A few months later, they said, we want you to come work for us, and we're going to give you an internship. We're going to pay you. And I was like, what? Kidding me? So this is like music, sort of like, is this a dream? And I go to the laboratory. I do a 2-month internship, work on a project with a bunch of physicists, and I'm just like, these guys are like the titans of the science community, like how we see titans in swimming world. These guys have dedicated their lives to this field. And I networked a lot. I got out of my comfort zone. I was talking to people, and I'm actually friends with all these guys that interviewed me now, which is kind of funny. And I landed another indeterminate work while I was finishing my degree. And I was working at a facility, which I still work at now, Jupiter Laser Facility. It's a laser. So I work with lasers and high energy density science and research. So that's a mouthful. And we can have like a 24-hour discussion on this, and I won't go into much of that. But if you want to,
next time.
Yeah, it's time. So, but I get the indeterminate work, I get the internship, and then they hire me full time, and I was like, "What? This is amazing." And then I was like, maybe you should swim again. And just that little tickle in the back of your mind, and I was like, "All right, let's try it." And
hold on. It can't be that easy. You get a full-time job, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, I'll swim again."
Yeah,
that's how it happened.
Yeah. No, it happened so fast. It wasn't even funny. It just I don't know. I'm still amazed by it to this day, because I never thought I'd be swimming this fast and this long, as long as I have.
And so when you got that itch to, okay, let's swim again, what take me through the steps you progress in that field.
I was coaching when working 3 different jobs at the time when I was going back to school for my associate's in science degree.
Mhm.
And I said, maybe I should go sign up for a master's meet or something like that. Just kick around meet. And I actually beat all my times in college, which I was shocked. I was like, what the heck? I'm 20, like 28, 27 years. I'm 28 years old. What the heck's going on here? So I'm supposed to be
Was this the masters meet in Palo Alto?
there was there was one there, a master's meet in Palo Alto. I did that, and then I did another one in Lafayette. And then I
Okay.
said, I'm going to sign up for year round. And I talked with Alex, and he's like, let's do it.
Nice. I was at the meet in Palo Alto that
Mhm.
that you were at.
Okay. It's
I,
small
my
world,
my
man.
my brother was competing there, and so we remember seeing you there, and we're like, dude, that guy's pretty fast.
Yeah, I'm pretty humble about it. And I kind of try to slide under the table with it. I try to let my actions speak for me, not my words.
Yeah. And so you do a couple masters meets, you're like, wow, hey, might as well go full time. And again, there's plenty of people to do it, but I don't think that makes it easier. How is that balance of full time job and full time swimming?
Well, there are some days where you gotta like take a day off from swimming, and the job is actually, I would say hate saying it, but it's a balance. Job is important just as the swimming is important. They both have to coexist. I sometimes have to take a day off from swimming in order to recovery. I mean, if I didn't have my job, I can be doing like doubles all the time and doing all this crazy stuff and get to take naps in the middle of the day. No, I don't get to take naps in the middle of the day. I don't get to do that luxury. I'm training, like I work from like 7:30 to 5 every day. Sometimes get a Friday off, um, and I train way. I'm like up at like 5 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning training, and then I go to work, and then I'm trained in the afternoon, in the evening when the sun's down and everyone's already eating dinner. I'm training, so it's having to push it later. And the food is medicine. I treat food as medicine to help myself recover, and sleep. It's a regimen. It's knowing you can't it's you got to have everything set up in line, all your ducks lined up in a row in order to be able to go throughout the day and functioning. It's a balance. It's a juggling act.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I think that's a really good phrasing of it. You have to get your ducks in a row and then just go through them one at a time. So you're doing you did doubles, at least pre-COVID, let's
Mhm.
say. You're doing doubles in the pool.
Yeah, I was doing doubles like in the pool, and sometimes I would alternate and do like dry land and weight room stuff, and then get in the pool for like a few minutes, and then in the evening I would do doubles, or sometimes I'd have to take a day off in the middle of the week in order to like recover, because I can't I just because the mental stress of work and what how it drains me is just in sitting in meetings and listening to design reviews and projects and stuff coming down the pipeline and deadlines. It's like, oh. So
It's a
it's
lot.
part of the gig.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, works hard, especially, 7:30 to 5. That's a lot of time.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, it's
So we saw you progressing, and you started coming out of the senior time, started dropping, and a few heads started turning. But I think the moment everyone remembers was at that Clovis Pro Swim. You broke a minute for the first time in your career at 30 years old, which is a huge barrier for anyone at any age. Tell me about leading into that meet, what your preparation was and what you were expecting from that performance.
so leading up to it, we I already a few months before I had sustained a shoulder injury. I had a partial tear, so I was doing tons of physical therapy, and working my legs a lot and doing stuff with not with my arms. But it's funny how during that process, my shoulders got and my arms and upper body got a lot stronger through that process. And leading up to it, we were doing a lot of race rehearsal meets. We went to Santa Clara International meet the day before, and I was backing off weights, just like dryland weights a little bit, because I had done heavy lifting, and I was like, we're going to stop for a little bit. And I took some vacation to go to these meets. The sleep and the food and the recovery, I was going into this feeling into Clovis, like, I mean, I'm 30 years old. I got a full-time job. What the heck do I got to lose? Like, I got nothing to lose. I had no expectation. I knew I was going to go fast.
Mhm.
I just didn't know how fast. And that morning when I did this morning swim, I went my best time, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. So let's just, I didn't think too much about it. I just went and warmed down, did the routine, just kind of not dwelling on things. So I try to embody this. I was embodying, and I've been working and still refining it. This person of becoming a peaceful warrior, as Dan Millman would say, and being in the present moment, not yesterday, not tomorrow, here and now, this moment. And I was really in the moment. I had that blurry vision behind the block. I didn't know who was in the race, for God's sake. I didn't have no one in the race. I didn't know anybody there. I was just kind of just skulking behind the shadows and just kind of just really just saying, it's really sunny outside. I like it out here. And I dove in and I just went for it. And I was like, I'm ahead. This is really strange. Let's just keep going. And I just hit my line every time and just went for it. And I turned around and just like 59. And I was just ecstatic, because that was just a goal that I set for myself years and years ago. Like when I was in high school, I was like, this can be done.
Mhm.
Heck, like, and so I did it. And I was just ecstatic, and it was just kind of this huge, it was just amazing feeling. Can't describe it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's how cool of a moment to reach a goal you had set 10 plus years ago. And through, leaving the sport entirely and coming back to it. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so you qualify for the national team for the first time. And, like you said before, one thing that means is that you get to go train in Colorado Springs. But what was that like, making a senior national team for the first time in your life?
It was, and like all the things that people said that I wouldn't become, and all the negativity of all those people that just doubted me and kind of just told me that this is what you're going to become. It was kind of in my mind. I just said, you keep plowing ahead. You keep staying true to yourself. I mean, it's just listen to that quiet little voice that speaks. That's very loud, but it's very quiet. It's very subtle. It doesn't come in front of you. It comes from behind you. And I was really proud of myself. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and I didn't know the process. It was just it was just one of those really happy moments of my life. And I can just be very proud of myself that I did it. Like I did it my way, not anyone else's way. I did it my way, and I did it. No one can take it away from me.
So one swim nerdy technical question. I remember seeing you at that Masters meet in Palo Alto, and every time I've seen you race since, I mean, you have a very undulating breaststroke. You get your hips really roll well across the top of the water. Has that always been the case for you? Did you make a technical change at some point throughout your swim career? Because I mean, you look at other breaststrokers, and obviously high hips are a good thing no matter what, but you really have a smooth undulation that is unique to my eyes, at least.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that I'm glad you brought that up. So I've been working on this portion of my stroke for a long time, and it's still in the development of really trying to have that undulation. So what I try to really do is use different muscle groups other than, yeah, I mean, you got to stroke with your arms and your kick and
Mhm.
use your abdominals, but if you break down the human anatomy and you break down the anatomy of looking and observing what happens in the wild in animals, um, we humans have this like a lumbar spine and lower back muscles. So was working my back muscles a lot to open up a little bit here to support my shoulders. But then I started saying, wait a minute, can I work that? I didn't have that muscle. Wow, I didn't even know I had it. So I was working those muscle groups that I don't think a lot of people take too much attention into. So when I see a cheetah running across the like in its slow motion, you see them like flex that lumbar spine like all the like huge like when they're running. I mean they're using that's where all the power comes from. That's where the power comes from and how they're able to run and how they just go 0 to 70 in like in a second, like in minutes, like seconds. It's crazy. So I was like, maybe I can implement this. And I was trying to flex my spine and trying to get it more undulating more, and it's actually proven to pay off. But it's incredible amount of high attention to detail and incredible work. So I try to flex the lumbar spine, undulating back and forth to bring the hips up and bring the ability to kick. Because I don't think the power comes from the kick. It comes from a singularity point in the stroke. And I think the lumbar spine is where a lot of the power comes from, and then you have to translate and find out where it comes from, and anywhere else in the stroke. But breaststroke can hate you one day and she'll love you the next day. She's just that's the kind of relationship, love hate, man. She has. So
Yeah, I don't think anyone can argue breaststroke is certainly the most finicky stroke. There's so many ways to do it. There's so many iterations of it, and it's yeah, from one day to the next, it can be a complete 180.
yep, you just got to roll with it.
Just got to roll with it. So to wrap up our conversation, moving forward into these next few weeks, few months, obviously there's a lot of uncertainty just in regards to, will there be swim meets? What will they look like? We've had we had US Open, and that was a success, I think, by and large, but we don't know what the next thing's going to look like for you. What are you focusing on in these next couple weeks, couple months? Do you have short-term goals, or just things you're trying to work on in the here and now?
I think that's a very good question. I think this can really pertain to everybody. Trying not to get wrapped in all the trash right now. Get in your own personal trash and the trash around you. Putting down the iPhone, go take a walk outside, and just and being able to just be focusing, because I think we are all, as I love the book. I've been reading a lot of books and reading my own, and I've been doing a lot of family history research on my own family, because we've had a lot of time and we found a lot of many stories about our families, which I encourage everybody to do. I mean, this is not the first time this has happened, and it won't be the last. But it is the biggest battles that we fight are in ourselves. We That's the way of the peaceful warrior, as Dan Mellon said. We are all peaceful warriors in our own unique right. We're not all the same. If we be observant and slow down and be very present and focus, because I think this, like the muscles and the body, and I mean, we're all going to be fine. We're all going to be fine in that right. But I think this is the most thing that is going to make us or break us. I mean, you got to get out of it and just don't give up what you love. A warrior does not give up what they love. They find the love in what they do. And this is this pandemic is part of everybody's personal training. You can choose to be whatever you want to be, or act or react. Warrior acts, only a fool reacts. And I think we all need to embrace the sense of not trying to worry about tomorrow. And I'm no saint by any means. And letting go of a past that we can never change. And being fully present. Like I was in Clovis, I was present. That was the most present person and essence that I ever was. And that is where I want to get back to. Again, being present. That's all we have.
That's good words to end on. Brandon, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with me today. I know you're working full time today. So again, I really appreciate it.
No, my pleasure. And anytime.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.